I want to show you this video first before we start working on the drawbar. This video I took before I disassembled the gun completely. It's a good image of the drawbar sliding in and out of the frame as you pull the trigger, and you could just see where you could have problems with that being the source of some friction or some noise, some roughness. This drawbar is just as rough as a cob, and you can see where I'm pointing where it slides up into the frame there towards the front, and then also in the back where I'm pointing right now is where it also has a chance of making contact with the frame. Alright, first up is the drawbar. We're going to sand it on 220 grit sandpaper. It's Norton brand sandpaper. It's made for either wet or dry. As you can see there just how rough the sides of it are. I'm not going to bore you by showing you how to do both sides. I'm just going to do one side here. This video should be about 4 minutes long. And here you can see where I've already knocked down some of the rough stuff there. So we've been on that about 3 minutes. And as you can see the editing here, I've cut out some of the pieces of the video here just to shorten it. And now you could see a little bit more of a shine there, and some of that rough freckled area is starting to disappear now as we get closer to a perfectly flat piece of steel. And next up I'm going to change over to 320 grit sandpaper. Again, that's just a steel table, like apart from a table saw. And I'm just laying out some water. I'm going to lay the paper back down, and now I've got to wet the paper. This 320 grit here now will start to make it shine, make it polish. And after about 5 minutes of that, you can see we've got it down pretty good. I'm ready to move on now to the 600 grit sandpaper. 600 grit will make it almost like a smooth piece of glass. Just need to spread the water out just to get it spread out. This paper will last for quite a few uses. I've used this a few times to flatten slides before and to polish them. And here I think you can see where it's got a pretty good reflection. It's actually shinier to the naked eye than what it shows there. And now I'm getting out the Dremel, and this is just Mother's Mag wheel shine or wheel polish that you could buy at an auto parts store. Now I'm going to take the drawbar and just spread out some of the paste, and just running the Dremel on it at the slowest speed as the tool is designed for. If you run it too fast, it just gets too hot, and it also just splatters everywhere. So nice and slow. That drawbar will get very hot if you go too far or too fast with it. In this case, the drawbar got pretty warm to the touch, but never enough to burn me. And now you can see now I've got a pretty good polish there. I'm going to hit it one more time. And just using a cotton cloth, an old sock or something like that, I just take off the excess paste, and there we go. That's about as good as you're going to want to get it. You could go a couple more times on it to make it better, but just look at the difference now between the two sides. Alright, and this won't take long to finish the drawbar. We're just going to polish the very back of the drawbar on that tip, and then over here we're going to hit this and this, and then these 2 points with the Dremel, along with where the foot from the disconnector rides on. This won't take but just a couple seconds here with the Dremel. we're finished. Alright, up now is the frame. As we've talked about earlier, I'm going to polish the top of the frame rails here. First off, we're going to use is the sandpaper with the steel slab, and then after that we're going to polish the inside of the rails here with the special sharpening stones. So first we get our sandpaper lined up here, you get it wet underneath and on top. Just like so. And the water will make it adhere to the table. Yeah, I think we're just about done here. It's only taken me about a minute or so to knock down the meat of it here. You can still see, I'm going to turn up the brightness here. I'm going to open up the exposure on the camera. If you look right here, these dull areas, those are low spots where the bead blasting still exists. But you can see I've got it pretty much smooth across the top. It has a very nice brushed look right now, kind of like a brushed stainless finish on a slide that you would see. This is 220 grit, just regular sandpaper, wetted, and I'm going to make a few more passes here, and then we're going to go on to the 320 grit. One trick to holding this frame down properly is you want to reach through the magazine well with a couple of fingers, and then put the pinky finger through the trigger. If you hold it down, such as like this, it makes it much easier to keep the frame flush to the table without it chattering. It just puts the weight right down in the center of the gun, right where you need it. Makes it much easier. Alright, next up is 320 grit. This only needs to go on for about 20-30 seconds, then we'll move on to the 600 grit and we'll be done. Okay, I think we're done with the 320 grit. Let's take a look here. I think you can see, get it to focus here. We're pretty shiny, basically perfectly smooth except for this little area right here, but that is not bad enough. I cannot feel that with my fingernail. That's just a low spot from the manufacturer of the gun, but overall we're in great shape here, ready to move on to 600 grit. It's important not to go too far. You don't want to change the dimensions on any of the parts, so there's no reason to keep going to get that perfectly smooth right there. So I'm fine with it so far. Looks good. Alright, 600 grit is on the table here, so a few swipes with this and we'll be done. And that's going to be good enough, I believe. Wipe it off here. Take a look. And we got nice good reflection here. Nice and shiny. All the way through. We're ready for the Dremel now. Alright, we're ready to move on now to the Dremel. I'm just going to get the buffing pad a little wet here. And start off slow. Try to spread it around a little bit first so it doesn't go flying off. And 30 seconds here, we'll be finished. Flip it around and go the other way. Yeah, we should be done. Let's wipe it off a little bit. And I think you'll see that it is just polished up just great. I don't know if it shows on the camera, but it is as reflective as chrome. And so now we're going to do the inside of the rails. Alright, next up on the rails, I'm going to use my special stones here I had made. And you get inside this groove here, get that polished up. I just use a honing solution on these stones. I don't use water. Oil really needs to be used with these to keep the metal particles floating out of the pores of the stone. And just put a little bit on the gun there where it's got to go. And should be good here in a few minutes. And on these inside channels of the frame rails, we don't need to make it perfectly shiny like we did on other parts of the gun. I just want to knock down the high spots where the slide is already rubbing, and this just takes those spots and makes them, you know, perfectly smooth. This is a hard Arkansas diamond, or a hard Arkansas stone, so it is it's going to take care of that with just probably about 1 minute of work on each side. And what I'm doing is I'm inserting the stone into the channel, and then I'm pushing upward towards the top, because you want to get the underneath of that rail, not only the face that you see here, but the underneath that you can't see. So you want to make sure you get that good, and then press down, and you can hear it getting on some of the rough areas there. And just do that for a little bit on both up, down, in and out, and you'll be good to go. I'm about done with this one. This one should be good to go on this side, and I'm going to do the other side, and then we'll be finished. Okay, we're all done. I've cleaned it off. I've just used like a gun aerosol cleaner to blow out all the oil and debris. You can see where it's a little shiny inside the channel. That's what we've done. We've got that polished up good on both sides. Good enough, that is. I could go further and make it completely mirror finish, but that's just a waste of time in my experience on these guns. Getting it to that point's good enough. Right here on this part of the frame, you may or may not get a benefit out of also polishing these parts of the frame. In most cases, in my experience, it does not help any. This particular gun, I'm convinced that it does not help to polish those. But if I reassemble the gun, then I hear a little bit of friction whenever I pull the slide back. I may go back in and polish these up too, but I think I'm pretty good here with the way this particular frame and slide fit together. So we're good with the frame here. We're finished. Next up is the disconnector. Now this piece, as you can see, the bottom of it here, this foot is not perfectly square. It has a little bit of a contour to it, and we don't want to get on a stone and flatten it out any. We just need to gracefully scrape it across the sharpening stone just a few times to remove some of the material, some of the high spots, and then the rest of that's going to get polished up with the Dremel with a buffing wheel. I know you can't see what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to hold it like this and then just move it and drag it at the same time. So I'm rocking it back and forth. Let's see if I can do it sideways for you here. You just want to be careful to hold it square to the stone, but you need to rock the piece as we drag it across here. I'm going to open up the exposure a little bit, remove some of the shadows. I think you get the idea. And I think you can maybe see it a little bit there. Still looks a little dull, but I've removed some of the rougher stuff on it. Then on the sides of it, you can see perhaps there's a little bit of a shine to the sides. That's where the hammer surrounds it. This piece slides around inside the body of the hammer as the hammer is going from double action to single action. So those sides get a little bit in contact with the hammer. So whenever we got the Dremel out, we'll go ahead and polish those also. It won't take but just a second to make that just a little bit better. After I'm going to hit this with the Dremel tool here. Almost looks like a piece of chrome. And now the sides. That's one side, you can see it there. And then the other here. A little more paste on it. And here's a final look at it. I'm done polishing this one. I think that's enough. You can see that foot. Now I hope in the video it is just perfect. That's what we were looking for. Alright, next up is the decocking lever. And as I showed earlier in the video, I think you can see here just how rough the top of it is. If I could hold it still, you can see right there, we're going to smooth out the top just by working it on a sharpening stone. This is just the standard India stone here. Okay, here, just after a few seconds here, let's see if I can get it to focus. I don't know if you can see the top of that or not, but it is already much smoother. You can see a lot less grooves on top of it there. I think now you can see that top of that lever is perfectly smooth. And I'll just polish it up a little bit with a little bit of fine sandpaper and then we'll be done. And now we're going to hit the top of the decocking lever. Boy, that's a whole lot better. I'll hit it one more time. I don't know if that shows up or not, but yeah, look at it now. Absolutely perfect.